Alright, fuck a intro. What's good, YouTube? Back at it again with another off the cuff discussion. I really like doing these. Just kind of more so having it, at least these videos, just more like a conversation just with whoever's listening out there. Like I said before in previous videos, I like making videos that I myself would want to watch, and this is the type of content that I mainly consume because I like when the content is structured where they're saying something and you can agree with it or have your own thoughts and opinions. You can just kind of like pause it and like either kind of quietly to yourself give your own opinion, like you're having a conversation with them or something like that in between. But the topic that I wanted to talk about today was, kind of overall discussing kind of, failure, the importance of failure, and just why hitting rock bottom is so crucial towards one's development. And just, when someone's kind of in that mode where they feel like they can't continue going on, that's when you need to have the most amount of discipline, motivation, and everything under that kind of umbrella. So how we're going to start this is, what do we deem as failure? Or at least what do I deem as failure? I deem it as, kind of not being able to achieve what it is you set out to do, regardless of whatever that might be. Whether it's like you want to start a business and want that to get off the ground running, or maybe you're doing like a weight loss diet and you couldn't stick to it, or maybe your relationship ended with your partner because you were unfaithful or something happened, or just kind of situations like that where things don't go the way you hope they would, and now you're at a point where you can go one of two paths. You can readjust, do a course correct, and make the best out of the situation, or you could just say, woe is me, life is unfair, it's not right. And for me, when I'm at a point of failure or feeling like I didn't achieve what I felt I was capable of, I more so fit in the camp of, well, okay, how do we course correct? Because I never really understand why someone would want to choose to kind of throw a pity party for themselves, right? Some people say like, oh, because of X and Y reason, they can't do something, or like they're at their lowest point and they're like, well, my life sucks, it's because I have X, Y, and Z wrong with me, and blah 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 blah, so I'm just gonna choose to let it continue festering on and not do anything about it. Well, I would say the fact that you're here, I mean, in some cases it could be the issue, but I would say the fact that you're here isn't the issue. It's more so, again, how do you recuperate after? I don't know where this quote from. I can't remember if it's from like Rocky or something, but like I kind of like the quote where it doesn't matter how many times you fall down. What matters is how many times you get back up. And I really like that quote because it's true, right? Life is always going to pin you down. Life's always going to find a reason to suck. Excuse me. But the important thing with that, with failure, with not achieving what you felt you were capable of, not living up to expectations, not doing X, Y, and Z, the sort of main point of that is to say, well, I didn't do that, but I'm going to take the knowledge that I have gathered from trying to pursue said thing and I'm going to use that and apply that to make sure that the next time around I try and do it again, I don't make those same mistakes that lead me down that route. Right? That's more so that's where my headspace is whenever I encounter something, where I deem like it's failure. Like, I would say currently right now, trying to lose weight, right? And right now, I go to the gym pretty consistently. Sometimes it's really on and off, and I know that I need to work on that and improve on that. But for the most part, I go fairly consistently. And, I've added, a pretty sizable amount of muscle to my frame, but there's still a lot of subcutaneous fat that kind of hides some of the muscle on my frame. And I know that I want to lose some of that fat for health reasons and to also, kind of have an aesthetic body, right? The dieting aspect for me has always been hard because I'm someone that my appetite level is extremely high, at least currently right now, where it's like I need like 4-5 meals a day to like not be starving, like to literally not feel like I'm starving. But but the level of which I have to eat in order to get that level of satiation is pretty high. And I know that to continue this pattern of this level of consumption of food would not be healthy in the long term, regardless of how I might feel. And I was again eating like 4 or 5 meals. I'm eating like candy and all this other stuff, and at one point, it's just like I looked at myself in the mirror one night, and I just got to a point where I felt disgusted with myself. I felt ashamed because I looked at my midsection, and I was just like, holy fuck. Because originally I was eating a lot to put on muscle. I was enjoying getting stronger as well, and I kind of got addicted to that feeling of this level of progress. And I didn't really want to lose the momentum, but again, like it just got to a point where one night I just looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, holy shit, like this is bad. And I decided that it was time to course correct and change the diet and all this other stuff that comes with that. And I'm not gonna lie, it has been harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was gonna be, oh man, I'm gonna cut out all this processed shit, I'm gonna cut all this candy and sweets and blah 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 blah, and I'm just gonna stick to a very regimented diet, 3 meals a day, that's it, no snacks, water, all this, just keeping it very locked in. And for like the first 2 days, I want to say, the first like 2 days I was very locked in, you could say. But then you kind of that hunger starts to creep in. It's 11:30 at night and you had your last meal 3 hours ago, and now you're getting kind of hungry again. And there's an open bag of Twix in the cabinet, and it's like, oh, they're only 80 calories a piece. What could 2 hurt? 2 turns, you have the 2, and then those 2 turn into 6, then that 6 turns into 10, and then you realize at the end of the day you ate half the bag and you feel disgusted with yourself. And this was a vicious cycle for a couple of weeks where I would have like this kind of like mini binge, and then the after, I don't know, after it all, I'd be disgusted that I did it, and I'm like, okay, I gotta change. And you just follow this vicious cycle, because you can't really quit it, because it's like, oh my god, I know this is bad for me to consume on a daily basis, but it's so good. But every time I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, damn, I look fucking, I'm not gonna say like I look hideous, but like that's what you feel like. And for me, that was kind of a rock bottom, because like right now I'm currently 220 pounds, and it's just like when I have clothes on, it kind of hides the figure, but at the end of the day, to me, that doesn't really mean anything, because I know when you take off the clothes and you're just your bare self, you can see it, and even if you can't, you can still feel it. And it's just, for me, that was kind of a rock bottom, because it's like, wow, I'm in this vicious cycle and I want better for myself, but I'm not willing to put in the effort to get it. And with that realization, again, you're at this crossroad where you can make one of two choices. You can say, all right, I tried doing this. I wasn't as successful as I thought I was going to be. And, I can choose to take what happened, take the experience, and apply it on the next go around, and avoid the mistakes that I made earlier to try and get the result I wanted. Or I can just say, well, dieting isn't for me. This is hard. This sucks. I'm just going to continue doing what I've been doing before, because it's comfortable and I don't have to overexert myself. I'm choosing to go with the first option, because again, I know that doing this cycle isn't healthy, and the long-term negative health effects that can stem from this, I don't ever want to have a possibility of obtaining those in the future, because there are some shit that once you get it, you can't get rid of it. And if I'm to have a family in the future, I want to instill healthy habits into my children. I don't want to sit there and say, hey, you guys need to do X, Y, and Z, and then I'm not leading by example, right? Practice what you preach type situation. But yeah, it's just, I need to seriously lock in and do better. And this is what I mean when talking about hitting rock bottom or failing or something like that. I feel a lot of people choose to do option 2 because, again, it's easier to complain and take yourself out of the equation for why shit hit the fan. Because at the end of the day, it's all for preservation of the ego. Really, nobody wants to sit there and say that they're the reason why their life sucks currently. And sure, there may be external factors that aren't taken into account that are generally beyond your control, and that is unfortunate. I will say though that if we look at the situation in its entirety, maybe there are some key things, even if they're small, that we can change to help at least improve our situation somewhat. We're not saying that we need to fix it overnight or we need to immediately solve our issue. I know that there are some things, again, even if small, that we can change that can at least somewhat help our situation. And again, like the fact that we're here is not the issue, but it's how do we bounce back? Because ultimately, I believe that, the things that we go through, they kind of happen for a reason. right? Again, we're bringing back, like, someone trying to launch a business. You launch your business and, maybe get off the ground running. You've been sailing through calm seas, but then sometime down the line, something shifts within the business and it starts failing. You're not making as much money. You have to let people go. You can't push out as much product like you used to. And now you're at a point where you're filing for bankruptcy and you got to close it down, right? You could say that, because of the market and, consumer demands and all this other stuff, that this is why the business failed. And sure, those could all be very valid excuses. But maybe there are also things that you could have done to help alleviate the situation as well, or at least made it so that it wouldn't have negatively progressed this far, this fast, right? And again, you can take those experiences that you acquired on the first go around, and then you can reapply them again when you try to either relaunch the business or launch an entirely separate new one. But the way in which you would approach this one would be entirely different, because you now have that new found knowledge from the failure of the first one, so you can avoid making those same mistakes, which would ultimately lead you to the same result, right? And these are things as to why I believe that failure is important for one's development, and that we shouldn't necessarily shy away from the concept of failure. I mean, ultimately, we shouldn't want to fail, or we shouldn't hope that things do fail. But in the situations where we encounter failure, that we understand that it is important to our growth and development as people, right? Because again, the things in which you gain from that are valuable, even if you don't necessarily apply them to something else. But the fact that you now have that newfound knowledge from that can be applicable somewhere down the line later. And even if you have depression and you're really in a situation where it's life sucks, I don't even have the drive to get out of bed, right? Again, you feeling that isn't the issue, right? But where do we go from here? At least that's how I think about it. It's all right, we're feeling this and we're feeling this hard. What can we do to change the situation for the better so that we don't come back to this point again? Because honestly, people who complain about their situation and why it sucks, but actively take no steps to change the situation in any regard, they get no sympathy from me, because at the end of the day, they're just kind of wallowing in their own self-pity, right? And it's you have to think about, on some level, it might not be the case that they enjoy being depressed, right? Or they enjoy having these feelings or being in this situation, but it almost makes you wonder, it almost makes you wonder that kind of, because again, I'm someone who's I have a problem, I want to find a solution. If I can't find a solution, at least a way to help alleviate my situation so it's not as bad. And I wish more people would adopt that mindset, because then they might be able to find ways in which it is possible to help better their situations in some regards, even if they can't necessarily completely solve the problem that they're facing right now. But making it better is better than it remaining the same or it being worse through inaction. Right? But yeah, I think failure is great. It's a great way to expose, some of your flaws and what you can do to improve as a person, maybe as a employee, as a parent, as a teacher, whatever facet in which failure can happen to you. It exposes a way in which you can be better in different situations, and we shouldn't necessarily, like I said before, shy away from it, but incorporate it and learn to how do we build upon this, and how do we move in a direction where we don't end up in this situation again. Kind of like, when you're a kid and you've never necessarily interacted with fire, but your parents always say, don't mess with the stove, it's hot, fire is hot. You may hear that and listen to them, but you don't understand why it's true. And you go and touch the fire, or like let's say the stove is on, and your parent, they were like boiling water for tea or something, and they happen to step away, and that curiosity just takes over your mind, and you stick your finger into the flame, and you're like, ow, right? Through that, you learn that fire is hot, and you never want to do that again. That pain was a lesson, for to never stick your finger in fire, because you're going to get burned, right? But the act of doing that was crucial because you learned that lesson. But yeah, this is gonna be the end of the video. Just wanted to talk about this. There was something on my mind, and I wanted to share it. Thoughts on failure and things of that nature. Again, I like making videos where you can kind of just not even necessarily watch anything, just kind of playing in the background while you're working, cooking, doing whatever. Just more so feeling like having a conversation with someone. Hopefully you, maybe not hopefully, but maybe through watching this, gain new perspective, or you just had a conversation with yourself, or your friends, if you were watching this with someone else or listening to this with someone else, and you had a conversation about it, giving your own thoughts and opinions. You can give your thoughts and opinions down below, whether you agree, disagree, have your own specific situations where things may or may not be applicable. And yeah, this is gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.